Hello guys, welcome back. And in previous tutorial what we saw is we created couple of components over here: app input, app label and app switch. Now in this video we are going to use those components in the login page and how we can set up that login page, how we are going to route from one page to another, and how we can write all those code in place, right? We are going to see all those things inside this tutorial, and without talking much, let's get back to code and we will see how we can do that all, right? Again, if you guys will be having any problem, you can put down that problem in the comment section. I will try to address all those issues as early as possible. So let's get back into code. So you can see here we have homepage.view, right? So this homepage.view already we have created over there, but we are not going to use this homepage. If I'll go back here, right, I can able to see here we have not menu, but you can see here we have this page created over there, right? But in this case what we are going to do is we are going to create this kind of menu, and when you will click on this, it will expand to the right, and then we should be able to click outside and it will get closed. So this kind of things we are going to make here in this tutorial, right? For that, what I'm going to say is we'll just remove all these from here since we don't need that. Since we don't need that as of now, as we proceed we'll start creating those components. But for now what I'm going to use is here is I'm going to say ion and then menu. All right, very first thing I'm going to use ion menu, and then content we need to define here is content ID should be here, and it's going to be a main content, you can say, or else whatever name you want to keep you can keep it there. So I'll just use this, and then inside that we need ion header. We are going to define ion header, which is going to, of course, this header. So let me define ion header here. Again, this is going to be, of course, ion menu, and ion header is going to be of component. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to import ion menu, right? And then ion header, you can see it is already there, so we don't need to import that and register it on the compo view instance components. All right, so what here next I'm going to do is I'll just say okay, this ion header we are going to use, and this then inside that what I'm going to say is I'm going to use ion toolbar as well. So what does this mean? It's nothing but a component, UI component, which we are going to use. We'll see that in action. Okay, so inside toolbar we are going to define ion title, and then inside ion title we can say okay, we are going to define the name of our application, let's say. So in this case our application name is bookshop. So what I'll do is I'll just hard code this value bookshop. Instead this should be coming from a constant value. That is how we are maintaining the the constant. So for that, let's do that now, otherwise we'll forget that and it will be there. So I'll create one more folder over here and I'll name it constants. Okay, and then inside that I'm going to create one file. I'll name it constant.js. All right, so here what I'm going to say is I'm going to export one variable with name app name. Okay, export app name, not app name, export constant app name, and it's going to be bookshop. And then again, why we are going to do this, we all know that we are going to centralize it, and whenever we want to change any functionality we'll just change it here and it will reflect all those places where we have used this, right? So next what I'm going to do is I will just save it, and then I will use this app. I'll just import app name. All right, so instead of this bookshop, what I'm going to say is I'm going to define one data variable here, data you can say, and this data will contain all those properties. Of course props is also there. If we are going to use this page somewhere, then we can pass props as well, but since this is going to be page, since we are by convention we are not going to use any page inside other page. If at all it's very necessary, then only we are going to nest that, or else we are not going to nest that. Instead we are going to use router for that to route between the pages. So but if we want to make the pages, of course we are going to use reusable component to make the pages. So here I'll just put constant.js, and then in the data we are going to define all those property which we want. So I'm going to say app name, let's say, and then this app name will have this app name, and here I'm going to bind app name. All right. So now we need this ion, not ion, but it's going to be ion title, right? So that already present there on components, we can see. We don't need to import that. And next what I'm going to say is ion content, right? And where I'm going to say that here ion content. So basically what we'll be having is we'll be having a menu on the left side, and then we are assigning a content ID. You can name it as per you want, and then we'll be having one header over there, and then inside header we'll be having toolbar where we can place the title, right? And then when this menu will expand, right, so what are all those items which we want to show there, we can list inside the content. So if I'll show you here, you can see here this is the menu and this is the content, right? So this is menu content, and then this is the menu item, right? So for that what I'm going to say is it will have, okay, before that what I'm going to say is ion title is going to be the name of the application, that's cool, and then ion content we should be having, right? So in this ion content we can list all those functionalities, all those, you can say here I'm going to put let's say ion list. So how we are going to use list? For that I will go back to Ionic framework documentation, and there we can see the option we have, the component we have as ion list, or you can say ion item. And how we can use that, we'll see that here. We'll just do that in the same way. You can say this is how we are going to use that. All right, but we are not going to use label over there. We are going to use a route. Basically that will of course be a label, but when we'll click on that it will redirect to a specific route. And how we are going to do that, let's see that in action. So let me first do, what I'll do here is I will just say ion list, right? So I'll say ion list, and then we need to import ion list component over here. I'll say ion list, and it will get imported automatically, ion list, and inside ion list we'll have all those menus which we want to keep there in the menu section. So here what I'll do is I'll use ion item. So inside list you can use ion item as well. So for that I'm going to import ion item as well. I'm going to define those on components ion item, right? And then what I'm going to say here is I'm going to use app label for that. So how we can do that, we can say, okay, before that ion item we need to make it as a link, right? So that when we'll click on this, then the page should route to some another page based on the requirement. So what I'm going to say here is we have one attribute over here, router link. In Ionic we have this router link, and inside that we just need to specify the path of that specific route. So here let's say I'm going to say login. All right, so then the title should also be there inside the ion item. So for that what I'm going to say is I'm going to use it, I will remove this app button for now. I don't need this here. Instead of that I need app label. So for that I'm going to import app label, right? And then I'm going to register app label on this component, in this component section you can say, and then app label, right? Now I'm going to use this app label, and how I can do that, you know that app, I will do app label, right? And then here I will pass a paragraph tag, let's say paragraph tag. Now you can see how we are assigning the elements to a specific component. If we want to, we know that how we can bind props, but this time we are going to bind element to a specific component. Basically what it does is it will take this element, go back inside app label, and it will replace this slot over here. That means that p tag, paragraph tag, will get injected over here and it will work accordingly. So let's see that in action, and here I'm going to say it is going to be login, you can say, right? But we are not going to define it like this. I'm going to go back in constant file. There I'm going to define constant, let's say login, and then I'll say the text as login. So now I'm going to use the login. I'm going to import login here, and how we can do that, of course, we'll just place comma here, and then I'll put login. So let's see if we can assign this login directly over here. I'm not sure. So I will assign login over here, and then we'll see if that works. I'll just save it. And we are done with the header, right? Next, what we are going to do here is we are done with the menu, right? And then we should have a page as well. As you can see here, if we'll go back, okay, it's not loading. So if we'll see here, basically what it does, okay, I think this login is breaking. So for that, what I'm going to say is app login, okay, not app login. You can say login text, and then I'm going to assign login, right? And then I'm going to pass that login over here, login text. Let me save it, and we'll see if this works. So I'm going to refresh this page, and then again nothing is coming over there. Let's inspect that and we'll see what is the exact error over there. Must have a content element to listen for drag event. That is not actually error, but here we'll see registered ion page were passed to component but could not load in it because of component render fragment or root text nodes. And why this error is coming, we'll see that as well. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I need to remove this. I'll just save it and go back. I'll do refresh. Let's see if we get the same error this time. Of course, we are getting error menu must have a content, right? So since we have defined menu, it must have a content, and how we are going to use that? Of course, we are going to use ion content component, right? And in that component, do we need to use component ion content directly? No. We are going to say first we are going to use a page, ion page, right? And then inside page we are going to use again the header and all those. For that, what I'm going to say is this page ID I'm going to assign. You can rename it as per you want. And then I'm going to say again this page will have its own header and then title, right? For that, what I'm going to say here is, again I'll do copy paste since we need header, right? Header, and then we need toolbar, and then we need content as well, right? So I'll just copy this content from here and I'll paste it over here. Fine. But we need to replace certain things. Here the title should be as per the page which is loaded there, right? So in this case, for now I'm just going to keep, you can say I'm going to keep login for now, but we'll make it dynamic as well. Like if we are going to load login page, it should show login, and if we are going to say load some other page, then it should show some other page name over there. But let's make login for now. We'll change that later. All right. And if I forget that, please remind me that in the comment section and I will do that for you. No issue. So here what I'm going to say, we don't need this ion list anymore. So I can remove this. Instead, we just need ion content over there. And then that content will have some padding. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use ion padding class. What it will do is it will add certain padding for, let's say, 15 pixel or 20 pixel. So what I'll do, there's some default sizing, default padding over there. You can go to documentation and see how much values are there in pixel or in rem, right? So now here I'm going to say we are going to use ion router outlet. What does that means? This is a new thing which we are seeing. Previously we are not aware of this. So what does this ion router outlet is? So before that, this is also a component, so I need to import ion router outlet, right, so that we can use it. This ion router outlet is nothing. If you will go back to app.view, right, there we can see we have used ion router outlet. That means any of the page which is going to render will be rendered inside this router. So every page will have its own route, right? And router is responsible to manage those routes, right? For that we are going to use I'm going to use ion router outlet, right? So but since it is defined here, we have used this ion router outlet here, then why we need to use there as well in home page? Why? Because we can see here, if we'll go back to application, right, here we can see we have this login over here, but this is going to be a menu, right? This is going to be a complete menu. When we'll click on those menu, there should be a overlay opening that is specific to menu. But what about the page which we are going to show? So that page is going to render here, right? Not overall page. And if we'll talk about overall page, then this router will come into picture, and this time in home page we have used another router. So if we'll try to render any page, we'll try to render that page here. This you can play it with, you need to play it with this ion router outlet very carefully, otherwise you will see some unexpected routing and you will get into issue. You will be resolving that, and it will take a lot of time to resolve. So you need to understand it exactly very carefully how it is working. So in this case, this page will have, overall home page will have one more router which will be taking care of all those routes. And if we are going to push any route, we are going to render any route or page onto this home page, then that will be getting rendered inside this ion content. This is how we are going to make our page, right? So without talking further, what I'm going to do is just going to save it, and then we are almost done. What I'll do is I'll just go back here and I'll refresh the page. Let's see how it works. But before that, we need couple of more things over there. We need that button over here as well, right? For that, what I need to do is I need to say, okay, iron toolbar I have used. We need a menu button as well, right? In this case, we don't need iron title. Instead, we need iron buttons. All right. So see, in view Ionic component, we have two component over there. One is iron button and second one is iron buttons. That means iron buttons may have multiple iron button. So I'm going to use iron buttons as a wrapper, right? So of course that also need to be imported here. So I'm not going to add those here. Instead, I'll just type it here. It will get automatically imported. So this will just save time. This is cool way of, a smart way of doing work. So what I'll do here is I will put iron buttons, right? And then we'll need iron button as well, right? So I'm going to import iron button as well. Cool. So you can see here I have used iron buttons, and then inside iron buttons, what I'm going to say, the button should be shown at the very beginning. That means it should show at the left side, right? For that, what I'm going to say, slot, vslot, we have lot of directive in Vuejs. So this is again one more directive, and this time this is going to be a name directive. So we are going to say start. What it will do is it will search for the start container, right? Empty container will be there. We know that in case of slot, but that empty container should have, not should have, but you can say it will get replaced with it will find those container with the name start, and then it will replace these values. So what I'll do here is I'll just wrap it once more inside start, but this is not allowed. What I'll do is I'll just use slot instead of v slot. Alright, this is also one way to use v slot over here. Fine. So next thing what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use ion button, not ion button, but this time I'm going to use ion menu button, and then we will have ion title as well, but that is going to be outside of the menu button. So ion title, and now this is going to be the title of that. Let's say for example I'm going to write menu, and then we'll see what happens. So we need this ion menu button basically to be imported here. We are not going to use ion button anywhere, I don't think so. So we can just remove this from here, ion button, right? So we need ion menu button over here. You are free to play with any of the component, and you can create your own page as per you want, right? So I'll import ion menu button, I'll register it on components, and then let me save this and go back to here. I will do refresh. Still that button is not getting visible. We might be having some issues. Let me debug that and we'll see why is it happening. So right, for that what I'm going to see is main. So what is the exact error over there? It's showing some register ion page, and what is that? That might be related to this ion item and then router link. Let me just comment this and we'll see if that works. So let me just refresh the page, and still that doesn't work. That means this is not the issue. We need to find the exact issue. Why is it happening? So instead of this app name, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put the app name directly. I'm just following knife way of finding the issues. But if you guys know exact what can be the issue, you can fix it and let me know in the comment section, or else you can pause this video and search for this issue, why this is happening, and fixing this issue before me is highly appreciable. All right, so I'm going to say here, I'm going to say login. Let me save it, and then let's see if that works. No, still it didn't work. That means that is also not going to be issue. So let me revert that. Now here we need to do couple of things, I believe. Not couple of things, actually this should be working fine. So ID we have put there as ion page, and then we have ion menu as well. So what can be the issue? Let me read the code from very beginning and we'll see what is the issue. Okay, we have provided two string over here, so let me just remove this and save it. We'll see then. Okay, now it's working, right? So I found out the issue. Basically I have put earlier I have used vslot, and because of that we need to bind some dynamic value, but this time I'm going to use a static value start, and this is not going to affect any application, and this is completely legal and good way of doing it. So I'm going to save it, and then I'll go back here. I'll just refresh the page. We should not be seeing more error now, right? Now I'll click on this. You can say it expanded, and we are seeing bookshop, the application name over there. And then we have this, available login router. If I'll click on this router link, it should, render some different page. So by default, if we'll see here, there's no page being rendered here, since we have not used any page. We have not, pushed any page inside this router. But moving forward, we'll be feeding all those, we'll be embedding all those pages over here only. Okay. So let's see if it works. I'll just click on login. You can say the route changes back to login, but this menu is still there, right? So where that login comes from. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more folder over here and I will name it as auth. So all the functionality or page which we are going to create will be creating under certain folder so that we can categorize those pages easily. We should be able to find those pages easily, and that is the way of doing it. We are going to create a big application. Everything should be in place and everything should be structured in a way so that we can find every component, every file easily, and it should be readable as much as possible, right? Then we can say like we have created a very good application. We have created a very highly scalable application. It is very flexible. It's going to adapt any new changes. That is what we are going to do here. So I'll just say auth, and then inside auth I'm going to make a new file. I'll call it as a login.view. All right. So moving forward, all the pages which I'm going to create here is I will follow the name of small casing so that we can categorize it as per component. Component will have a camel, not camel, but the Pascal casing, but I will follow here the small casing in the views name, and then I will also follow if we have multiple words over there in the file name. I will just split that using underscore. All right, we'll see that later in this video, but for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to design a login page which is most awaited for this tutorial, right? I have said multiple times that we are going to create login page, and we are going to, so finally we are going to see that in action. Let's design that page and we'll proceed with the functionality then, right? So very first thing what I'm going to say is this login is again going to be of, we don't need actually page over here. What we'll say, we need template, very first thing, and then of course we need script, and very first thing which we are going to say export default, and then we are going to name this page, and this page name is going to be login, right? And what next we are going to do here, we are going to say, okay, first we are going to design this page so that it will look better and you will feel that you are going to make something, right? That will be feeling which will pull you ahead, and then you will be more interested to learn this tutorial and learn the concept of Vuejs as well as Golang. So here what I'm going to do is, very first thing I will be using Ion Grid. So Ion Grid is nothing, it is just again one component, okay, and which will divide our screen into 12 smaller pieces, okay, as per the screen size. That means to say, if your screen is of 1920 pixel width, that means 1920 pixel is going to divide it into 12 part, right? So that is what Ion Grid is, and we can align our UI component accordingly so that it will be visible very it will be very flexible to visible all those elements on a smaller device as well. We will all see that in action. So let's first use this Ion Grid, and then inside Ion Grid, of course, I'm going to use Ion row, and then inside row we will be having a lot of column over there. But for the simplicity, what I'm going to say here is first thing what I'm going to say is login container. All right, I will just add couple of class so that we can design it in the way I want. If you want to design it other way, you want to make it more beautiful, you can of course do it. You are free to do it. All right. So Ion row, what I'll say is Ion row will also have class, but this time I'm not going to assign custom class. I will use Ion class over here, and I'll say Ion justify, and then content is going to be center, right? And then also I'll say Ion align items center. All right, all of the element inside this row is going to be aligned center. Fine, no rocket science. Now next we need a row. No, not row, but we need a column to display all those elements over here. So very first thing what I'm going to show here is in this row, I'm going to say, let's say this is going to, I'm going to assign the size, not class, but I'm going to assign the size and I will say 12. All right. And on medium device, the size would be 8, right? And then not 8, not size, but it's going to be on medium device. So these are attributes basically present on ion column, and we can use those attributes and make our UI very flexible and adaptable to the a small screen as well. We'll see that once I'll write code and I'll show you how it works. So next what I'm going to say is on large screen it is going to be of 4, size 4. It will occupy 4 fragments of a grid. And then I'll say one more thing. For Excel it is going to be of size 8. Cool. Then next here what I'm going to say is I'm going to design one ion, not design, but I'm going to use one component that is ion card. And here what I'm going to say is class is going to be login card, so that we can assign some custom CSS over here. If you want to use Tailwind, you can use Tailwind as well here. If you want to use Bootstrap, you can, of course, you are free to use that. Please, I will encourage you to use that and make it more beautiful, make it more robust. And that is how we are going to design it. For the simplicity of the application, I'm just going to use raw CSS over here, but it's completely depend on you along with tutorial. If you want to use that, please go ahead and use that. All right, ion card is there. And then here what we'll say, very first thing we'll say here is the title. All right, how we are going to show the title? Of course, I'm going to say app label. We'll import all these components later once I'm done with the design. Okay, so app label, and in that I'm going to say, let's say I'm going to use h4, and then title is going to be login. Again, it should be coming from the constant file, but then the video will be much longer and it will be basically taking a lot of time. So what you guys can do, you guys can follow that pattern where you are going to define all the constant in a single file, and then you can perform the action. That way it will be very easy to do modification on any one of the file. You don't have to change at every places. That will be the recommended way, but I'm just for simplicity I'm using the hard-coded text over here. So I will use login here, and then I need a couple of more things here. What I'll do is I will use app input. All right, so I'll say app input, which we have created, right? So I'll say app input, right? And then we'll pass a couple of props which we have defined over there. So before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import this component and register on the view components, right? So here what I'm going to do is, very first thing I need ion grid. So I'll say ion grid, then I need ion row, I'll say ion row, and then I need ion column. So I'll say ion col, and then I need ion card, I'll say ion card, and then I need app label, I'll say app label, and what else we need? App input as well we need, so I'll say app input, and then button as well we need, so I'll say app button, right, which we have created there. That's why now you come to know why we have created those components, right? We'll combine all those components and make a beautiful UI. All right, so this is it. We have imported all those components over here, and we have registered on the component as well. Now here, if you'll hover, it is expecting some props from this component, right? So what I'm going to say here is, first thing is going to be ID. So I'll say, let's say email. All right, and then type is also going to be of type email, and then I'll say label position, right? We need label. Even though we have defined, if we'll go back here, we can see here we have defined those as a camel casing, but we should be able to pass with kebab casing. That is completely allowed in Vuejs. Or else if you want to try with other format, just try with that and see if that works. But this is the recommended way by Vue.js. So I'll go back to login and I'll say label position is going to be floating. And what does that mean? I'll show you when this component is being rendered. So next what I'm going to say input counter, not input counter, but we are going to say counter, and I'm going to say true. So counter should be there, which will be showing that how many input we need to provide there. Now max length and minimum length also I'm going to put. So minimum length is going to be, I can say minimum length is going to be, let's say 10, right? For email we can expect at least 10 character over there. And then maximum length, what I'm going to say here is max length, and then maximum length email can be maximum how many characters, let's say 100, not 100, let's say 32 I put, not 32, let's say 40. You can modify this value as per you want, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use style class as well, which is one more props over there. And here what I'm going to say is white hyphen border and then white hyphen label. Why I'm going to use this? Because I want to keep this card background as a blue, which will design later in the below once we are done with the template. So that's why it should be visible actually there. Now after this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do very important thing which we learned at one-way binding and two-way data binding, right? So here we are going to use two-way data binding, of course. So for that, remember we said we are going to use vmodel, okay? And this value here we need to say input. All right, that means it will update the input prop of this app input. If we'll go back to app input component, we can see here input is one of the prop which we are sending, right? So we are not going to explicitly send this as colon input, bind this as column input, but this time we are going to bind it with vmodel, right? This is one of the directive. So this way we can make sure like the data is getting binded in two way. Any value changes there, it will reflect here as well, and if we are going to change here, it will reflect there. That's the beauty of vmodel. And then here what I'm going to say is I'm going to say email, and from where this email will be coming, I will define a data here, and then of course we need to return, and here I'll say email. Cool. Now we have binded email as well here, and then finally we can attach event listener as well. How we can attach, we know. If we'll go back to app input, we can see if we want to attach any event listener to the specific component, we just need to give @ and then the event name, right? So for that, what I'm going to do here is I will just do on input. That's what we are emitting from the app input component. If you want to verify it, you can go back and then check here what we are emitting from here. You can see we are emitting on input, right? The same we are going to listen here on input, and then on input I'm going to say on email input validated. All right. So finally we are done with the app input, and then we need one more app input, right? This is for email, and next one is for password. So I'm going to say ID is going to be password, right? Password, and then type is also going to be of type password, and then label position is going to be float. Minimum length, maximum length you can adjust. I think it should be between 8 to 16 character, right? That is what allowed in lot of other website or other application. You can define whatever you want here. And here also we need to bind password, and if we are binding it here, it should present on this instance on this page. So for that I'm going to define password, right? It is also going to be default empty. Cool. but here on input we need to define on password validated. All right, so we have these two method over there, or we can say just simply on input, since it is going to emit a single input only, so I can say input, and then based on the validation we can say, but then how we can categorize which kind of value is being emitted. For that, what we can do one more thing over here. We'll go back to app input, we'll customize it bit more. So in this case we have email, so I will pass type as well here. Type is going to be of email, right? Not email. I will just use the type which is getting passed in the prop, so I'll just say this dot type, and then it will be working in both, okay, not both the cases, here also I need to say this dot type. So this is the way we are going to evolve throughout our application. We can add as many as functionality based on the requirement. Now this requirement is needed here, so I added new requirement, new functionality. You can add as many as new functionality on this specific component. This is now completely yours. I will put all this code, all this component and everything, whole entire code I'll put on GitHub, and you can just clone that repo and you can make a cool application on top of this. So I hope I'm clear, and then I'll go back here in the login, and here we'll be having those event. Now we know that how we are going to capture event. Of course we'll have $event over there, right? Using that we can capture those specific event which is getting emitted from that specific component. So here also we'll say $event, and then finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it, and I'm going to create one method. Since on this specific event this method should get triggered, right? For that we have to define a method over here. I'll say methods, right? It's as simple as that. So I'll say input on input, and then event will be coming here. What I'll do is, for simplicity, I'll just log this event. I'll see whether we are getting those event over here or not. So just save it. I'll save it, and then I'll go back there in code. I'll click refresh. Okay, we are not still on the login page. Why is that so? Because you can see no match found for this path login, right? There's no router defined for this login. Whenever we are going to create any page, we need to define route for that, so that Vuejs application can know, okay, we need to go on this path, and then based on the path, the mapped route, the mapped page will be rendered over here. And how we can do that, we'll see that here. So now I'll go in router, and you can see here we have index.js there, right? So by default it is pointing to home, right? That means if I'll remove this, I'll just paste the default path 8100, it will just point to the main home page. But then our expectation was to load login page over here, right? So for that, what I'm going to say here is, okay, you go to this component, and then this component will have multiple children, right? Because we are going to render those page inside the home page. That means home page is going to be main component, main file, all right, main page, and then inside that we can have n number of children. So how we are going to do that? We'll say children. It's as simple as that, right? It's going to be an array. Then of course we need to just do the same thing over here what we did. So I'll just copy it from here, copy, and then I'll paste it here, and then I'll remove couple of things from here. I don't need slash over here, because now if we'll put slash, that means it will search for the top level router page, right? It will try to modify that, but in this case this path should be relative to this specific parent path. Okay, that means whenever we are going to render home page, inside that the different page should come. So instead of home, what I'll say here is it's going to be empty path. We don't need to do this, right? So empty path, by default the home page will render, and then Inside that we are going to put, let's say, login, right? And here what I'll say is name is going to login, right? Component we need to render dynamically over here. We don't need children. Why? Because inside login we don't want to render any more pages. So we don't need children over here. But if you want to use, you can use it, of course. So here what I'll do is I'll import that. There's one way of doing it. Either you can import that home page directly over here and then you can use it. This means even though this page is not going to render, this page exists here in this router and that will be taking memory. So efficient way of doing it, just to import those pages at the runtime. When that route is going to load, then only import that page, or else don't import. This way we can make our page much faster and efficient, right? So we are learning all those concepts which is getting applied in the enterprise level application. So what I'm going to say here is I'm going to say, okay, just import the page. And how we can import the page? We are going to say, we are going to use this arrow function, and then here this will actually resolve this import statement. And I'm going to say, okay, you just need to go inside views, and then you just need to go inside auth, and there's login.view. This is how we are going to import the page, dynamically import the page. And this will be only rendered, only imported in case of if this route get triggered. All right, let me save it, and then I'll go back to UI, and then I'll just re-render this page. You can see /home is no more there. Why? Because we have removed that and we have changed that to root page, that is /. All right, so I'll just remove that and then I'll just click enter. Now that page is coming over here, right? I'll refresh it and show it once more. Okay, this is coming here. Then if I'll click on this, you can see login, right? Now on login, we are expecting the login page should be visible here. And instead of changing this full path, it will just append this particular path over there and then the respective component. That is the beauty of this, Ion router outlet, or this is nothing but this is a view router. So let's click this raw login. You can see here we have couple of input which we have created over there, and that is getting displayed over here. This is how the routing works, right? We are still on the main page, right? But internally we have routed to login page, right? Now you can see here we got lot of property devons was accessed but is not defined on the instance. We got lot of warnings that will rectify over the time period. And then here we got some more issues. Class list, we are not able to access those class lists. So for that, what I'm going to do is, that might be issue with the element initialization. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, if it is there, then only you need to add those class. If it is not there, means you don't need to do anything. So this is just optional chaining, you can say. It's a concept of JavaScript. Again, we are not going to discuss that now, but this way you don't need to put if and else, lot of if and else condition to avoid the error. It will handle this error automatically. Of course, input will be there, so we do need to put those there, put those optional chaining there. But after the input, we are not sure whether that element and the class list will be there or not. So we have removed, we need to handle it using optional chaining, and then it should be working fine. Let me do it here as well. And then we should not be getting any issue. Let me refresh the page and we'll see if that works or not. So you can see we didn't get error this time. And then of course this property debounce and all will rectify over the period of time. Let's see if we defined debounce over here. We didn't define, and we have used above, I believe. Yes, debounce is there. So we need to define debounce as well. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this property and then I'll say debounce, right? Default will be 0. Let me save it, and then we should not be getting that warning as well. Now you can see we are no more getting that warning. Of course, we'll rectify this as well over the period of time. But for now, you can see we are getting these two elements which we have created over there. Of course, we need to make this page, make this login page very beautiful so that it looks much better. But This time we are just going to see whether it works or not in the expected way. So what you can see, the counter is visible over here since we put counter as a true, right? So that is what we did. We make it highly customizable. And if I'll click on this, let's say I'll type some mail, let's say, you can see here all those emitted value is coming over here, right? And with value and is validated is false, right? Because this is not a valid email. If I'll say, let's say, let me clear this, I'll say at the rate, not here, but here if I'll say at the rate, you can see is validated is true, because our validation function was, if we'll go back, our validation function for the email was just to check at the rate. If at the rate is there, means it will consider it as a valid. Cool. Now we can do the same thing for password as well, but there's some error we are getting over here. Why it is so? We can just click on this and we'll see, okay, we cannot change this to two strings since value might be coming not. Let's debug this. I will just click on this line and then I will type and we'll see what is coming over there. So value is coming undefined over here. Why? Because value is coming undefined here as well, but actually we are expecting value to come there, right? Then why it is not coming? Where we are using this validate function, there we need to verify why the value is not coming. Actually this value should get passed over there. And okay, so here we have not passed those values, that is why it is coming undefined and giving us error onto the console. This is how we are going to debug our application and make it, bug free. So here what I'm going to say, you just need this value. Okay, I'm going to pass this value to you and then you do your functionality. I'll come back here and I'll refresh the page once more and then I'll say ZD Hussain at the rate. Now the email is validated. Before that it was false, and then type is of course email, right? Now I need to pass the password as well, so I'll pass password. First let me remove this debugger, otherwise it will always be there and every time we'll type a character it will stop there. So you can see WD is there, we typed there, right? And the password, since type is password, is getting hidden. But password should be of certain length, so it is showing, you can see red. And if I'll say, you can see the condition matches and then this is getting green, right? And then validation is also true. This is how we are going to create our component. This is how we are going to use it on page where we want. Now we have to design this page so that we'll feel that okay, we made something, right? For that what I'm going to say is, first thing before this, right here we can say bookshop. So that bookshop actually should be showing in place of menu. So what I'm going to say is, this should be here and then menu should be there, right? Let me save it. Now it look good. Actually your company name or your website name should show on the top, right? That's the beauty of your website. People will see, and you can put logo as well here. And then inside, if they will click, of course this is going to be the menu. Based on the click it will render the page. That is it. So next what we are going to do is, we are going to design this page. And how we are going to design this page, let's see that in action. We are going back in our login page and then we will okay, now we are going to define a style as well here, and this time it is going to be of type scoped. What does this scoped means? We already saw that scoped is nothing. We are forcing this style to apply on this page only. Whatever class, CSS class or CSS styles we are going to write here, right? That all should get applied on this specific screen, not the other screen, right? So let's write couple of CSS class so that our page will be more beautiful. And how we can do that is, of course, first thing I'm going to use the class name, not like this but login. So in CSS every class name start with dot, right? So I'm going to say container, and the height is going to be, of course it should be shown in the middle, so I'm going to say 100 VH by default it will take the length of the screen, and this container will take the length of the screen, and then I will say display is going to be flex. Cool. And then justify content is of course going to be center. The card should be visible in the center of the screen, and align items should also be in the center. Cool. So next what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put login card. Did we use login card over here? Yeah, we have used. Now we are going to define the card, and how we can do that, we are going to do very first thing, text align is going to be center. Cool. And then I'm going to put certain padding over here, let's say all of the corner of 20 pixels, right? And then border radius I'm going to put, in this case I'm going to put, let's say 15 pixel, not 15 pixel, that is going to more, but let's say 10 pixel. You can use any of the value you want. All right. And then background, I'm going to choose background color, and this time I'm going to use some gradient over there. And how we can use gradient, so we need to write linear gradient, right? And then inside that I'm going to put 180 degree. All right. And then the second one is going to be the saturation of the color. So here I'm going to say 412, and then FA5. How I know this, you can start give any color, I'm just typing it, and then I hope it will take some color. Okay, this is going to take the color of purple. So then I'll say 0%. All right. And then I'll use other color as well. So here I'm going to use some different color, random color, let's say 703, and I'm going to put ED9, some random color. Okay, this matches as well. So here I'm going to say 100%, right? And this is how we are going to create a gradient, right? I'm not going to use color, instead I'm going to use background. And then there should be some box shadow as well. For that I'm going to use box shadow, and here I'm going to say 0 pixel, 4 pixel, 6 pixel, and then finally the color of RGBA. Here I'm going to use 0, 0, 0, and then 0.1. All right. I'll save it. And one more thing we need is color. Of course, the color of text should be not this, but the color of text should be white actually. So I'll put white over here, right? All right, fine. Now one more thing we need to do is, of course, we need to add margin over here. So what I'll do is margin, and from the bottom it should be of 20 pixel, for example. I'll save it. And what else we need to do is, we don't have any other functionality over there, but then login and everything we have fitted there. Let me just save it, and let's see on the UI whether it looks good or not. Okay, you can see here we are seeing a card with certain width, right? But why it is coming so small? So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see over here and what size we have provided over here. I think this is taking 4. Let me just make it 8, and let me save it, and we'll see whether that works or not. Let me refresh the page, and still it doesn't work. That means there's some value, there's some error with, not error, but there's some issue with the design. And how we can ensure that this login card, of course. So login card should be of certain width, and how we are going to say that? Let me say width, and it's going to be of 300 pixel. Let me save it and see. Now you can see here we have a login card with a width of 300 pixel, right? So what we can do here is we can put one thing instead of width. We can say minimum width is going to be of 300 pixel, and maximum width is going to be of let's say 450 for larger screen, right? 450 pixel. I'll save it and go back to UI. I'll just refresh it and let's see how it works. Okay, now it's bit bigger, and then we have to input over here. I'll just hover on this input, and then I'm able to enter the text over here. But one more thing here, we can see we are not able to see the label over there, right? Why? Because we have not assigned the label still. If you will go back to app component, and then you can see label is also there. So if you will assign label, then you will be able to see that label. So let me assign label over here. I will assign email. Cool. And then here also I'm going to assign label. So I will say this is password, right? So I'll say password. Let me save it and go back. Now you can see here label and then password, right, is showing here, and then this is called the floating label, right? So this is how we are going to design our application. We are going to design the page. Now there's still issue in with this design. When we are going to click on it, it is still in blue color and we are not able to see the text properly, right? For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put more theme over there. And how we are going to put, of course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's say, in the theme file, all right, and that should be basically applicable to all of those view input which we are using, not view input but the ion input which we are using. And how we can apply the class on input CSS, we can say white border, which we have used here in the login. If you will see here, white border and white label, right? This is the class which is going to be applied on that specific ion input. And how we can assign that, of course, we are going to see here. So we'll just type the name of the Ionic component, and then we'll say dot this class, right? And then inside that I am going to use double dash and then border class, border color. All right, so I'm going to say border color and it is going to be white. Cool. I'm going to put important as well, so that it will take it as important and it will override any of the value previously present there. So next what I'm going to do is I need to change the border block color as well. So what I'll say, border block color, right, it is also going to be white, and then it is also going to be important. Cool. Next I'll say outline color as well. So for that I'm going to say dash dash outline hyphen color. So this is the way we are going to change the CSS of view Ionic element. Okay, we need to put dash dash in front of the property. So here also we are going to say white, and then again I'm going to say, if you want to use Tailwind or Bootstrap or any of the CSS, nowadays we are using SAS, right, CSS loader, that also you can use and you can make a beautiful application. But for the simplicity I'm just using raw CSS, so that you will be able to play with this CSS and you can do that easily. So I'm going to say important. All right, so now next what I'm going to say is this will be just a basic criteria where will this white border will get applied. But then when we are going to focus on the specific element, then also this should be getting applied. When we are going to hover on that, then also this should be getting applied, since that is inside a blue color background. So we are going to make use of this white color so that it will be properly visible over there, right? Now one more thing is, we have focus, we have hover, and then we have focus within as well. So when we are click on that, that means focus within is going to be triggered. So in that case also it is going to, and then I'm going to use white label as well for the label, right? So I'll say hyphen color is going to be white. All right, and then the similar case will go for white label. I'll just copy it and paste it over here. I'll say focus within. Let's say hover first, and not hover, we are going to use focus within. Focus within, then this label is going to be of color white. All right, not color, this time I'm going to say the highlighted color. Highlighted color, you can say highlighted and then color, and then focused. All right, and then finally I'm going to say white label, and here I'm going to say pot, and then native. I'm going to put native over here, and then placeholder color also is going to be white. That means this is going to change the native element placeholder to white color, right? And I'm going to say white. And then one more thing I'm going to put here is I'm just going to create one more class which will be adding padding top of 20 pixel, and then I'll say padding top of 20 pixel. This will be useful in many cases where we just want to add padding of 20 pixel. All right, what else we have? We have created all those, right? One more thing which we want to create over here is action. So if we are going to create any button, right, and then that button is going to be have class action button, and that should be basically, if we'll hover on that button, then cursor should always be shown in pointer. Let me save it and go back to login page, and we'll just see the UI if it is fine. Let me refresh this, and here you can say okay, still it's not visible, so we'll try to rectify that over the period of time. You can see here it is being red, that means this is not validated, and then here also it is not validated. So we'll try to rectify this design issue, and if you want to rectify now, you can pause this video and rectify this, and that will be highly appreciable. Okay, so what next we are going to do? We are going to put a button over here, and how we can do that? So what we will do, we are going to use app button. Let me see if we have, yeah, we have imported that app button over here. So how we are going to use this app button? Of course, we need to use app button like this. I will, okay, not here, but that button should be in a separate column, I believe. So we should have a separate row. Wait, but why we need that? We don't need that actually here. So we can directly say okay, app label. We are going to put this inside app label. Is it necessary? I don't think so. So I'm going to just take out this out of app label. It should not be inside the app label. It should be out of the app label. So here I'm going to put that, and then this should be aligned properly, right? Fine, now I'll save it and let's see if that works. So this is working now. Okay, so that is why our class was having some issue, but still that issue is there. We'll try to rectify those over a period of time. Now we need one more thing here, that is app button, right? So I'll say app button, right? And then what we need over here, so app button will have, let me open this app button component. We will have ID, title, and then action as well. These three are mandatory. So what I'll do here is I'll just say first thing, you just need ID, and I'll say app button. All right, you can assign any of your choice, and then I'll say title, and title is going to be, let's say, login, and then we'll have action as well, or we can say expand. Expand is a native Vue Ionic, attribute or props, you can say, that will get applied on this app button, and it will stretch to the maximum length. So we'll see that before getting it. Before using that, I want to show you how it works. So I'm going to assign action also here. So this action will be actually responsible for login of user. So I'll say login user, and then this is nothing but this action is going to be of type method, right? You can see it is expecting function. So what I'll do is I'll just define login user over here, right? And then here we are going to call login functionality, but at the end it is going to be, of course, the login API which we created, right? So slowly we are heading towards to integrate those API which we have created. That's cool, right? So let me just save it for now, and I will show you if this works. So I'll just click on log, and then this app will have, if you will go back here, this app will receive this specific value over here, right? So that also you can say, you can log there if you want. So you can say by default you will be accepting event, you can say event, and then I will be printing event here. So now if you want to provide more data over here, then you need to, of course, modify this method signature, and then the second parameter, third parameter, you can accept the data, and it will you will be performing certain functionality. You can just play with those and then get it done. So let me just log in for now. Then you can see like, okay, this things happens, and then I'll go back to app button. Okay, there's no, so that button will actually triggered after 6 seconds, and then that here what we have defined, it will get logged to the console. So we'll see those in action. Let me just save it, and I will go back to UI. You can see this login button is there, but it's a small, right? So for that I was saying about, we are going to use expand attribute which will expand this to desired length. So here I'm going to say block. What this will do is this will expand this to the specific length of the block under which it reside. Okay, so I'll just save it, and I'll go back to UI once more. You can see it is getting stretched, and then it is hoverable. What I'll do is I'll just click on login. You can see this rotation, and after 6 seconds we should have a console over here. You can see empty array, since we have not paused any dependent IDs that is to be blocked based on this click, right? And you can also see that that rotation has gone, right? That loading button is disabled. I mean that loading icon is disabled once this functionality is completed. So this is the cool way of designing our application. So you can see here it is default loading in between the screen, right? And if you want to place it somewhere on the top, you can place it on the top, and then basically you can transform the X and Y coordinate of this specific card. So now we are done with creating a login page where we can feed email and password, and then we are able to click this login button, but then the functionality is not working. Why? Because we need to integrate that API, and in the upcoming videos we are going to do that, right? So that is it for the video. In the upcoming video we are going to see lot of functionalities. We are going to see how we are going to manage the state of the application. We are going to see how we are going to use Vuejs for that, to manage the state of the application, and then we'll be having all those concepts of getter, action, state, and mutations. We'll see all those concepts, and trust me, it is going to be lot more interesting, and it's going to be very interactive, so that you will be able to understand each and every concept of Vue.js application, how we are going to create it in, how this application is being created in enterprise level application. So if you're following this lecture, if you are seeing this lecture from the very beginning, at the end of this course I can make you sure that you will be able to gain all those concepts, and you will be able to create an application in the companies or of you from the very scratch, and then it will be highly scalable and highly flexible in the way you want, right? So that's it for the video, guys, and I will meet you in the next videos. Till then, if you want to play with this code, you can play with this code. I'll put all this code, as I said, in the GitHub. Thank you guys.